Words. They are the backbone of our language, and, in turn, language is the backbone of our civilization. The English language is a vast, rich, and diverse meadow of curiosities and wonders. However, this meadow would be impossible without the individual species within them. Some of these species are rather curious. An examination of them is certainly due. That is what we'll attempt to tackle today. Let's start with the word gobbledygook. Can we see the gobbledygook graphic, please?
All right, so we got the definition is a language that is meaningless or is made unintelligible by excessive use of abstruse technical terms or nonsense.
And the origin of the term is a 1940s imitation of a turkey's gobble.
An example of it is I did not understand my economics teacher when he began yapping about Wall Street gobbledygook.
And if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Let's send it to the pit for additional discussion.
Are we sure they're qualified for this position?
Well, I mean, really, a 7 out of 10 for that's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, like, this word is simply just a filler word. There's so many other things that you can put instead of that. And you decide to use this word that's way too long, that's way too weird, for lack of a better word. I feel like it should be way lower than 7.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think it should be more of like a 5, probably. Because
maybe even a 4.
Yeah, it's kind of meaningless.
We can say 4.5.
Yeah.
All right, back to you guys.
All right, thank you guys. And next up, we move on to the word bumbershoot. Can we see the bumbershoot graphic, please?
All right, the definition of bumbershoot is an umbrella.
Some say the origin is a combination of umbrella and parachute in the late 19th century.
An example of it is it's a
Considered bad luck to open a bumbershoot inside, as goes the old superstition.
all right. We would give this word a rating of 6 out of 10. Let's go to the guys in the pit.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, this word's a little better than the one earlier. I mean, with this one, there's really has more of a meaning in a way. I mean, instead of just saying bumbershoot, just say umbrella. Like, don't you agree with that?
I agree with that. You know, umbrella, just such an iconic term. You know, there's umbrella that we all use when it rains. There's the song, and if you replace it with bumbershoot, it just gets rid of such a household name that I feel like there's really no point. But 6 out of 10 is not a bad rating. It's acceptable.
Yeah, I think that's really acceptable too. All right, back to you guys on the set.
Thank you, boys. Now, we next had the opportunity to talk about the word rumpus. But first, we asked some students in the hallway their thoughts on the word rumpus. Let's see what they had to say.
And you wanna like start crashing out. I mean, I'm gonna throw a rumpus, and then yeah.
Rumpus. It's a pretty nice word, and I don't know what it means. I don't know, to be grumpy or something. I don't know.
Can we see the bumbershoot graphic, please? I mean, rumpus graphic.
All right, the definition is a noisy disturbance or commotion.
It is a grandiloquent term from the 18th century.
An example of it is Bartholomew's reckless nature has a tendency to throw the class into a rumpus.
And I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Honestly, I mean, it's one of the best of this section, Mason. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this might be one of the best that we've had so far, at least. Let's hope that there are some better words to come, though.
Yeah, I mean, just hoping for that clutch word to come in at the end. But
yeah.
For now, let's send it to the pit.
Rumpus, it's a concise word. It's a word that's pretty fun to say, and it's easy to write, I would say. You know, I'm just writing it like 3 times now, and it flows pretty nicely. And, you know, it's there's not really a word for like a noise or disturbance besides noise or disturbance.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's good to be around that 3-word synonym range, and I think this is perfect word to do it.
Yeah, it gives play on the word, too. I have to also agree. I think 7.5 is very agreeable. And also, like, this word kind of makes sense in context, too. And I've heard people say it, too, so it makes sense. Back to you guys on the set.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can we now see the snollygoster graphic, please?
So the definition of snollygoster is a shrewd, unprincipled person, especially a politician.
It originated around the mid-19th century, with its meaning originally referring to quick supernatural creatures. It may have came from Schnellgeister in German, which is the definition of quick sprints.
An example of it is after a politician was elected to office, he became known as the snollygoster, or as a snollygoster, since he embezzled a bunch of funds to himself.
Now, this one, I think we rated it a little lower. 5.5 out of 10. Just didn't have the same pizzazz to it as Rumpus perhaps did.
I feel like it could have been rated a little higher up. I don't know why we did that. It's definitely a good word.
Yeah,
Definitely
it had a lot
better
of
than-
potential.
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely better than our second word.
Yeah,
It's not
bumper
that
shoot.
great. Bumper
Yeah,
shoot.
yeah, bumper shoot was definitely lacking in certain aspects.
Yeah.
Let's see what Ben and Darin have to think.
Well, I mean, this word, I think 5.5 is a little nice for this rating. I mean, it is a little fun to say. I gotta mean, like, down here in the pit, when you guys were talking, we were saying it a few times. Like, I mean, it's a fun word to say, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I just think that the word's a little silly, and especially since it's used to describe politicians, I feel like if it were to be used on legal documents or in a serious news article, we should use words that are a little more serious, have more gravity to them than snollygoster.
Yeah, I mean, it has a little. I don't think this would be called a serious word because, like, it just sounds like funny. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I don't know why it would be funny though. All right, back to you guys on the set.
Thank you once again. And finally, our final word of this section, we have taradiddle. Can we see the taradiddle graphic, please?
All right. So the definition of taradiddle is a petty lie.
It originated around the late 18th century. It may have ties to the word little.
An example is, I do not understand why little Timmy felt the need to taradiddle when I asked if his pencil fell on the floor.
And for our word rating, I think I'd give it a 6.7 out of 10-ish. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a solid rating for that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a pretty. It's like an all right word. It's not the best, but it's not the worst.
I mean, it definitely had a resurgence in the past 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Give it in light of world
Yeah,
events.
maybe it's like 6 or 7 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good estimate.
All
Let's
right,
see what
yeah.
the guys down there think.
All right, I just have to say that I really don't see the point of this world. Doing some quick calculations, I see that taradiddle has 4 syllables and little lie or petty lie would only have 3. And since 4 is greater than 3, it takes way longer to say taradiddle than it would to say a petty or little lie. Honestly, that rating just seems really high. This word is just so, like, for lack of a better word, it's just useless and it's just really a buzzword.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with about what everything Ben said there. I mean, just use a simple word, really. There's simpler words out there than using taradiddle. All right, back to you guys on the set.
For some additional discussion on taradiddle, we also threw it back to the hallway to see what they had to say.
Taradiddle is a very skippity word. I feel it. When you're happy, when you want to have a party, you say, let's throw a taradiddle.
Taradiddle? I don't know. Maybe to diddle something? Yeah, that's a good word too.
An even wider examination seems appropriate. When we come back, additional words that we hope tickle your fancy and light the darkness in the aforementioned metaphorical meadow. Now, we know how great and interesting some words can be, but that's not all of them. We're glad that you're back to listen to us about some wacky words. So let's get started, shall we? May I get the collywobbles graphic?
So the definition is stomach pain or queasiness or nervousness.
The origin is likely from early 19th century, and it's formed from the words colic and the word wobble.
An example is, as I was getting ready for the show, I got a case of the collywobbles, making my stomach twist and turn.
And out of these words, it's not as good as some of the other ones. I mean, I just give it a 4.9, and I don't think that it's particularly superb.
Yeah, I don't think it's that strong of a word. Not so superb as most other words can be. Let's bring it to the pit with Ben and Darin. See what they think about it.
Well, I can agree with that. Like, not a strong word. I mean, just say you have stomach pain. Don't need to say that word, right? Like, I mean.
Well, yeah, like, it's not really necessary, and this is one of the first times I would actually agree with this rating, honestly. I think 4.9, 4.8 is around the good rating for this word.
Yeah, I think that rating's a little generous in my opinion. It could be a little lower. I mean, do you think that? Like,
Yeah, it could maybe in the high 3s or low 4s, but this is one of the better ratings we've seen from the main guys over there.
Yeah.
All right, back to you guys.
I thank you once again for some riveting analysis. Now, Flibberty Gibbet is our next word, but first, let's see what the guys in the hallway have to say about Flibberty Gibbet.
What do you think brouhaha means, and rate it 1 to 10?
I think boo holla holla means like when you're happy, you just scream boo holla holla, you know, because you're like so happy. And then, yep, I'm gonna rate it a 6.7 out of 10.
What do you think Flibberty Gibbet means, and rate it 1 to 10?
Flirted gibbet. More like midget. Get it? Gibbet, midget. No, you don't get it. Stop.
Can we get the Flibberty Gibbet graphic, please?
So the definition is a frivolously polite or talkative person.
Its origin is likely from late Middle English, and it probably imitates idle chatter.
An example is that weird lady was a Flibberty Gibbet and would not stop talking.
And for a word rating, I have to give it a 6.7 out of 10. Mason, what do you think?
Yeah, I think 6.7 is like a fair rating.
Yeah. I mean, it's on one hand, it definitely adds a bit of spunk to your sentence, but on the other hand, it's not something groundbreaking such as other words have been.
Yeah.
What do you think the guys in the pit have to say?
I think that rating it's okay. I mean, it's not great. I would personally rate it a little higher just because it's a pretty good filler word, I'd say. I mean, it's like pretty concise, you know, and it just sounds good. It's like nice to see on the page if you're reading it in an article or in an essay. So I maybe give it like a high 7 or a low 8. What do you think, Darin?
I think the rating is a fair rating. I mean, they're not doing the word any disjustice, though, but I mean, it could be a little higher. So, you know. But also, that word also is a little fun to say. I mean, back here when you guys were talking, we were saying it a few times. So, back to you guys on set.
All right. Thank you once again. Now, the next word is brouhaha. And once again, let's see what the hallway has to say about the word brouhaha.
What do you think brouhaha means, and rate it 1 to 10?
I think boo holla holla means like when you're happy, you just scream boo holla holla, you know, because you're like so happy. And then, yep, I'm gonna rate it a 6.7 out of 10.
What do you think brouhaha means, and rate it 1 to 10?
I rate it a 5 because I feel like it's just a made up word. I mean, brouhaha, it's like a brutal ha-ha. Like, I don't know.
Can we get the brouhaha graphic?
So the definition is a noisy or overexcited reaction or response to something.
The origin is from the late 19th century, French and probably imitative.
An example is there's been a lot of brouhaha over the new tax law.
And word rating, I mean, this is our highest of the day, 9.8 out of 10. Impressive. Mason, I mean, this truly a superb word by all meanings of the word. What do you think of this?
I believe this is going to be our best word out of the entire podcast. I mean, it's nice to say. It's got a good meaning. Like, there's nothing else you can get out of that.
I mean, you want a word to come in and deliver when you need it most. Brouhaha is your word. It's the Michael Jordan of words.
Yeah.
Now let's see what Ben and Darin have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rating for brouhaha is a little high, in my opinion. Could be a little lower, but I mean, it is fun to say. I was saying it a few times too. And also, the meaning does make sense too. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good word, but, 9.8, like that high 9 or 10 rating, it's pretty sacred, and we can't just really go handing it around to any word that we want, There's like a strict process that we have to follow to give a rating that high to words, and I feel like it just hasn't been accepted. We haven't really followed that process that we need to give it such a high rating, but I do agree that it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, just saying that again, it is a fun word to say. So, back to you guys on the set.
All right, thank you. Now, can we get the discombobulate graphic, please?
So the definition is confused and disconcerted.
The origin is likely from the late 19th century.
And an example is after getting hit on the head, the old man was discombobulated.
And a severe step down from brouhaha in the word rating, getting only a 5 out of 10. I mean, fall-offs like this you only see once in a generation. Mason, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I guess discombobulate, it's not like a real wacky word. That's kind of normal. I've seen most people use that.
Yeah,
I
I've
mean,
used it on
like-
hand to hand. Yeah.
Like,
Whereas,
it's not like a special word. Like
yeah, like
brouhaha.
flibberty gibbet, gobbledygook. Like these are words that like only pop up in elite situations. Discombobulated could be used in a variety of normal situations.
Yeah.
Although brouhaha, I've heard people use it before.
Yeah, but not as much as you would hear people say like discombobulate.
Exactly.
Let's hope there aren't too many more words like this.
Yeah, I mean, you just not what we want to see out of these words.
No.
Let's send it to the pit.
All right, so I do agree. We've been talking that this word isn't super crazy. You know, we've all heard it. Might be part of our daily vocabulary. But 5 out of 10 for this word, I mean, that's just too low. Like, this word is such a good word for situations where you wouldn't be able to say, like, confused or messed up. And discombobulated just fits so perfectly that I feel like it really needs to be higher. It can't be as high as the other words that we've seen, as it's not as crazy, but I think at least a 7 out of 10 for this word.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, really, I've used this word, and I think this is probably one of the most normal words we've talked about probably today, and probably moving forward too. Like, and also like this word's meaning too also makes sense. You wouldn't think something else. So, back to you guys.
All right. Gracias. Now, finally, let's bring up this spleen word graphic.
So the definition is a small fern that grows in rossets on rocks and walls.
The origin's derived from Western North America, Europe, and Asia, and it's from the belief that it would help your spleen. So that's where the word got its name.
An example is the spleenwort was growing everywhere on the walls and rocks.
And, I mean, this word rating, definitely a major bounce back from discombobulated, giving it 8.1 out of 10. I mean, it might not be the greatest word. It might not be brouhaha, but it definitely still knows how to play ball with these other words.
Yeah, I agree. This is also a very strong word. It's almost competing with brouhaha, but obviously brouhaha always comes out on top.
But I'd say they play a more cooperative role. Like maybe it's a Scottie Pippen if brouhaha is Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So let's bring it to the pit, see what they have to say.
First off, I like the Michael Jordan part of that. And Scottie Pippen. I like that one. This word, I mean, it's a lot better than discombobulate, and the rating shows it too. I mean, a big uptick. Like, you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree. This is you guys really started to, give fair ratings in this segment. But yeah, I agree with that. I think that this word is pretty good. It's the type of fern. It is fun to say, and I do feel like it really encompasses the look of the fern and the plant. So I feel like this is an appropriate rating and really just a good word to describe the plant.
Yeah, and it also does sound like a plant too. Like, I mean, the word.
Yeah. Like when I hear spleenwort, I think of a plant. Maybe
Yeah.
not a fern, but definitely a plant.
Yeah, some type of crop, bush, or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, back to you guys now.
Thank you for listening to this segment, but don't go anywhere yet. There's a lot more to come and a lot more words to learn.
Welcome back to the Words of the Wise podcast. Now we're going to be talking about some other weird words that sound superb. Now we're going to talk about the word kerfuffle, but first, let's bring it.
I would give it a 6.7 out of 10.
I rate it at 6.7.
The word kerfuffle. It's a noun meaning a commotion or fuss, especially one caused by conflicting views. Origin is an informal word that most likely comes from the Scots word kerfuffle. Kerfuffle comes from the Scottish Gaelic words. The rating is 7 out of 10, and the example is there was a kerfuffle at the store between two people when there was only one thing of eggs left. So, I mean, what'd you think of that? Like,
I think it's a pretty good word, you know. It's obviously not as exotic as some of the other words. Again, one of the words like discombobulated that we use in our everyday lives, but it's a good way to describe the situation, and I feel like there's not many other words that can do it in such a way that kerfuffle does.
yeah,
you know?
I mean, it does sound like a normal word. I've heard people use it, so that's why I give it a 7 out of 10. So now let's go to the pit.
I mean, I think it's a little underrated in this situation. I mean, with ratings like that, keep doing that, we're going to have a kerfuffle, Ben. I mean, get your head in the game here, man. This isn't some kids show. This is Words of the Wise here. We got to get our head in the game and make the right decisions regarding these words. Jason?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit. Honestly, I think Ben is doing fine at his job, and I think that this word is a little overrated.
So you want to have a kerfuffle then?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
have a kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle time.
Yeah.
Back to you guys.
Well, Brandon, you like trying to insult my intelligence over there? Like, I mean, Mason, I agree with you, but Brandon, man, really?
I'm merely suggesting that the word receive a higher rating.
You
Yeah.
got to move on. Just let it go.
All right, next word is bumfuzzle. So now let's bring it to the hallway to see what the guys had to say about it.
I think the word bumfuzzle may be like confused or you don't know.
What would you rate the word out of 10, like a scale of 1 to 10?
I would rate it I'll give it a 6.7 out of 10.
All right.
I think bumfuzzle is like when you're mad, like you're about to crash out.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, I'm bumfuzzling, bro.
Yeah, what would you rate it out of 10?
I rate it at 6.7.
Can we get the bumfuzzle graphic? So the definition is to confuse or perplex someone. The origin, there is really no real origin for this word, but some people think it is a mix of bamboozle and fuzzle. Example, I was totally bumfuzzled by the physics homework. Golly gee, was it ever a stumper? I give this word rating 5 out of 10. What do you think of that?
So yeah, 5 out of 10. You know, middle of the pack. I mean, we've seen so much crazier words, and bumfuzzle really there isn't a direct need for it. Like I can put other words in its place. You know, I can put confusing, or I can put, like you said in the example, stumper. Like, oh, that was a stumper. You don't really need to describe something with bumfuzzle, but it is a word, and if you wanted to expand your vocabulary, you can definitely put that in place of some other words to sort of heighten your sentence or your word structure. So I think that's a fair rating, you know, 5 out of 10, maybe a little higher, but I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a fair rating too, and I mean I totally agree with that. So now let's go to the pit to see what Mason and Brandon have to say.
I mean, I'm a little bumfuzzled as to the existence of this word on this list. This is a word of the most superb words, and I mean, this word, it's simply not that superb, man. I mean, Mason, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if this should be on the list. It's not a great word, and I mean, I guess it gets props for being a verb. Like, we don't get a lot of those. Like, it's mostly nouns and stuff. Like, yeah, it can get out though.
I mean, but it does make it unique as a verb. I mean, many of the greatest word makers of all time have overlooked the verbs, but there's an art to making verbs, and bumfuzzle definitely is a product of that. Send it back to the guys on set.
And now we're going to be talking about the word bamboozle. Can we get the bamboozle graphic, please? So, it makes me think of a jelly bean gang called Bean Boozled. So, definition is to trick or deceive someone, often by confusing them. The origin of the word bamboozle is uncertain, but it's thought to have emerged in the early 1700s, while some speculate it might be connected to the Scottish term bum base, or yeah. Then the example, the salesman tried to bamboozle the customer into buying a more expensive model. The word rating, 8.67 out of 10. All right, I mean, I think the rating is a little high in my opinion. Could be lower, but, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. Most words and the thing that gives words a high rating is when they can stand out by themselves. We used the analogy before, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, how there's words that work well in a sentence with other words, but then there's other words that really stand out on their own. And I feel like bamboozle is one that really just doesn't have that MVP type stature. It simply can't work without other words. And honestly, I feel like the popularity behind the word is really due to Bean Boozled. Like, everybody's played that game. We all really know the beans. We know the toothpaste one. There's like the one that tastes like skunk.
Yeah, that one.
Everybody knows that, and I feel like that really carries this bamboozle and lifts it up.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's context behind this word with the jelly bean game too.
Yeah.
I mean, that game tricks people because one flavor, you don't know what it's going to taste like. You might think it could be toothpaste, but then it turns into like a weird flavor, like lawn clippings.
Yeah, that one tastes bad.
Yeah. So now we're going to move on to the word earth. Can we get the earth graphic, please? A mathematical function, type of riot squad, or a unit of land and real estate. So the origin from Arkansas, where it translates to inheritance or a piece of land. Example of the word earth is a farm or a big plot of land that somebody owns. I'd give this word rating a 5.999 out of 10. Like, I mean, the word, you would really not think it translates to like a plot of land. I mean, it sounds like a cartoon character or something.
Well, yeah. Part of the words in the high rating is the misdirection. These words are fun to learn, and you can use them in a sentence, and people will be like, oh, what does that mean? And think, oh, I never guessed that. But also, a word needs to be able to be analyzed, like sort of sight read in a way where if I read it in a sentence, I can kind of have the context of it, and I can sort of figure out what the word means. And with this one, you really can't do it at all. So I think that rating's acceptable, not quite a 6, but pretty high up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair rating too. I mean, it's a fun word to say, but I mean, it's just the context of where you would put it, and also like the meaning too. Some people wouldn't know what it means.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit in many situations.
Yeah. All right, so now let's go to the pit to see what Mason and Brandon have to say.
I think that rating's a little weird. 5.999. Bro, just bump it up to 6, or keep it down to a 5.9. You don't gotta be doing all that.
I also think it's a little underrated. I mean, it's earth. I mean, it's 3 letters of smoothness, 3 letters of bringing that tenacity to the conversation. And I mean, while it might just mean a piece of farmland, it's so much more than a piece of farmland in our hearts. Also, I couldn't help but notice you didn't bring us up on the previous word. Do you want to have a kerfuffle, Darin?
Yeah, no, I don't want a kerfuffle. Yeah, I don't want one.
You seem to forget that they switched our spots because your word ratings weren't very superb. So
Yeah.
maybe you should just stick to the pit, guys.
Yeah, and we don't round. We want to be very exact in our ratings.
This is a precise endeavor. So
Yeah.
maybe let us stick with our ratings. Thank
The
you.
endeavor so precise, then who strayed from the fault?
All right, we're going to move
All
on
right,
to the next
let's move
word.
on. All right, so the next word we're going to be talking about is the word lollygag. Can we have the lollygag graphic, please? To lollygag is to spend time doing things that are not useful or serious. The origin of lollygag is sadly unknown. The example is you are lollygagging and not getting back on defense. Word rating, give it a 6.7 out of 10. I mean, really. that's the rating I would give it probably. Because I mean, this word, I think people have probably heard it at some point, like playing sports. Probably a coach has said that. Like, I mean, playing lacrosse and you're just not getting back on defensive support, or soccer, even hockey, like getting back on a back check to support. I mean, it means really spending time doing nothing and wasting your time. Like, you could say other words for that probably, but I think that word makes you sound smart in a way. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. You know, it's a good word to use in those situations, and I feel like it's become more common now, more of a common practice where lollygag would be your main word to use in those situations instead of maybe like you're slacking. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a really good word, and I think that that rating is pretty good. You know, it's definitely not the best we've heard, and obviously it's pretty common, but that's a good word, and it's good to use in a situation, and like, you know what it means just by looking at it. You know?
Yeah. All right, so now let's go to the pit to see what Brandon and Mason have to say.
I mean, I think this word is highly overrated. I mean, to put lollygag, which is a frankly mundane word, over earth is a disrespect to the art of the game. If we're using the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen example from earlier, lollygag is Ben Simmons, and he just got traded to the Brooklyn Nets. We will not tolerate this insanity. Bowie Mason.
All I can say is I'm disappointed. This word, not only does it not have a known origin, which would not fit with our words of the wise, but you put it over earth, like Brandon said, that's not acceptable. Let's bring it back to Brandon and Darin.
And I just want to say I'm completely bamboozled and bumfuzzled by the placement of this word. You guys must have been lollygagging on an earth when making these ratings.
All right, so that reaches the end of this segment. So when we return, we're going to be talking about some other superb words.
Welcome back to Words of the Wise. Unfortunately, our time is up soon, but we still have 5 more amazing words for you. Brace yourself for the magic of the English language. Our first word is whippersnapper. Could we have the whippersnapper graphic, please? All right. So the definition of a whippersnapper is a young, inexperienced person considered to be presumptuous or overconfident. This origin comes from the word whipsnapper, which means an unimportant action or noise. An example one might use is that whippersnapper will stop talking if he knows what's good for him. And we gave this word a 7 out of 10. What do you think, Darin?
I think it's reasonable. I mean, this word, I think somebody has heard in their lifetime. It's a really old word. Like, I mean, not like Gen Z would say this. I mean, probably like older generations would. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's more older people talking down to younger people who use this word. Definitely wouldn't call you a whippersnapper or anybody else of my peers a whippersnapper, just because I feel like I don't have the seniority to do that. But, you know, you hear it sometimes, but maybe we can lower the rating a little bit just because it's more common, not as exotic. Let's hear what the pit has to say.
Ben, I'm going to say you can call yourself a whippersnapper. This word is not that great of a word. And I feel like people aren't going to be using that as much in the future. And it's just not that great of a word.
The fall off the word whippersnapper needs to be studied.
Let's bring it back to the guys on set.
Okay, well, hopefully they like these next words a little better. Next, we have the word abecedarian.
I think abecedarian is a word to describe someone who is very diligent and smart. For example, someone who is constantly doing work, always focused, and not having any fun. I think someone would be called abecedarian.
I think that means to like walk your dog.
I would rate this word 7 out of 10.
I rate it a 7 because I like to walk my dog a lot. I really like him.
Can we have the abecedarian graphic, please? All right, so the definition of an abecedarian is a person who is learning the alphabet. This has a Latin origin from the word abecedarius, which means the alphabet. And an example of this is that preschooler is most likely an abecedarian. And we gave this word a 9 out of 10. What are your thoughts?
I mean, this really just sounds like somebody's just saying the ABCs when they say this word. A, B, C, D. Like, I mean, this rating could be a little lower in my opinion, but I think it's a fair rating.
Yeah, I mainly chose it because of the pronunciation, you know. Just looking at the word, you wouldn't really expect it to be ABC, you know, the first 3 letters of the alphabet, but it really is. That's just how you say it, and it's pretty literal meaning, so the meaning's nothing special. And what I also like about this is you could probably figure it out pretty quickly if you just take ABC and Darin and kind of break the word into its smaller components. So it's a little simple word, but the pronunciation is cool, and you wouldn't really think it's pronounced like that. Let's see what the pit has to say.
I mean, I consider myself a bit of an ABC Darian. I mean, I can get all the way up to G, not to brag or anything, but you know, hoping to learn what's next. I think it begins with the A sound.
This word is definitely creative, but Darin, I think you should appreciate this word a little more. I mean, it does kind of sound like your name a little bit, Darin. I mean,
And also, not only does it have the first 3 letters of the alphabet ABC, it also follows it with D and E, so it has the first 5.
yeah. All right, let's bring it back.
Okay, so the next word is a bit of a mouthful. This word is called hippopotamonstrosis quipedaliophobia. Can we have that word, please? The graphic. All right, so the definition of hippopotamonstrosis quipedaliophobia is the fear of long words. The origin of this word is an extension of the word sesquipedaliophobia, which has the same meaning. If we use it in a sentence, we could say, John winced at the word anti-disestablishmentarianism because he has hippopotamonstrosis quipedaliophobia. And I gave this word a 9 out of 10. All right, what do you think, Darin?
I mean, this really just sounds like, if you don't know the definition, a weird, like, species of a hippo. Like, I mean, really. I don't know why they have hippo in the beginning of it. They want to just say a random long word. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like the creator of this word just took random words and threw them together to poke fun at the people with this fear, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty serious. More people have it than you think. And, like, I don't know. You can tell he doesn't really have morals, and he doesn't really care about that.
Yeah, it just
Whoever made the word.
Yeah, it just really sounds like a big word salad, in my opinion.
And the fact that he took an already long word and extended it, you know, it's just kind of mean on his part, but it does give us a great word. It's fun to say. It's fun to learn. And,
It
you
is.
know, it's nice to point out when someone says, oh, what does that mean? And then you can, you know, you say what it means, and everyone's like, no way. Why would it be that?
Yeah, it is a little overpowering in my opinion. It's very long, and I mean, if a person sees it, they could get a little nervous having to say it. I mean, I got nervous looking at it, in my opinion. It's a little scary to look at.
Well, maybe you have hippopotamonstrosis quipedaliophobia.
Yeah, that's already scaring me. All right, now let's go to the pit.
I mean, I think the 9 out of 10 rating is solely due to the pure number of letters contained inside this monstrosity. But the meaning is nothing particularly fascinating, and I think that you should judge a word not based on its length, but by the content of its definition.
I feel like this could certainly be a wise word, mainly because of how long it is, and not a lot of people use it, because no one really knows how to pronounce it that much, you know?
Truly a spectacle for the rest of us to endure.
Yeah, it's a great word to learn about, especially if you're scared.
You cannot
of long
consider
words.
you cannot consider yourself a true wordsmith until you master this word.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go back.
Okay, our next word is willy-wah. Can we have the willy-wah graphic, please? Right, so the definition of a willy-wah is a sudden violent squall blowing offshore from a mountainous coast. This has a 19th century origin, but unfortunately the location is unknown. An example is, I was excited for my vacation on a beach near a mountainous coast, but a willy-wah quickly ruined my plans. And I gave this word a little lower rating of a 6 out of 10. What do you think, Darin?
Well, first off, this word kind of reminds me, just looking at it without knowing the definition, of Willy Wonka, because like the beginning of it. And I think the rating might be, I think it's okay. Could be better, could be a little lower, but just, it's not perfect, but it gets the job done. What do you think?
Yeah, I chose the lower rating just because the definition, you know, it's not really that fun. It's pretty specific, just like a storm off of a coast. But it's fun to say, and it's really cool that it has a lot of W's, you know? You don't really see that a lot in words nowadays.
Yeah. All right, so now let's go to the pit.
All I have to say is this word is just awful. I mean, it just sounds boring. It doesn't even like have that good of a meaning. It's just there's nothing to it.
I mean, yeah, if you're putting this in a sentence, you're truly at a horrible point in your wordsmith career, and you must resurrect it. Simply as that.
I think you guys are forgetting that we got moved up here from the pit because of your bad word ratings, but we can talk about that after the show. All right, for our final word, we have the word youper. But before we talk about it, we asked some people what they think it meant and what they rated it.
I think Eeper means like a blooper, like when you mess up. Say, oh man, that's Eeper. So, yeah.
I think the word Uber is another word for someone who likes to hoop or likes to shoot basketballs. It probably describes someone who likes to play basketball and play a lot of basketball. So that's what I think it means, Uber.
It's pretty good, so I'd rate it a 6.7 out of 10.
Uber, I'll rate it a solid 6.8 out of 10.
Can we have the youper graphic, please? All right, so the definition of a youper is a native inhabitant of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. This word is pretty simple origin. They combined the words upper, they used the word upper and used up and to make the word youper, sort of as a slang term. An example is, even in the harsh Upper Peninsula winters, the youpers take pride in their resilience and their strong community spirit. And we give this word an 8 out of 10. What do you think, Darin?
Well, youper, that sounds really fun to say. This is in my opinion, it's very serious that we take this word serious because it is fun to say, but you have to take it serious, right, Ben?
Well, yeah, I do agree. This word is pretty serious. It's talking about a whole heritage, a whole group of people from the Upper Peninsula. So they definitely take pride in their title as a youper. Whether you were born into that family, whether you migrated there, they definitely take pride in their youper culture. You know?
We can't disrespect this word because it's disrespecting other people. So, yeah, we can't. Has to be very serious about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why anyone would think it's funny, honestly. Like, it's just a name of people. It's very nice.
This is not a laughing matter.
Actually visited them myself a couple years ago, and it was a nice journey, I gotta say.
Yes, very serious. Let's go to the pit now.
I mean, there's just a lot to unpack here. Its significance to a group of people does also not negate the content of the word, and youper definitely has a ring to it, unseen, commonly in the English language. And I think you have to consider that with the rating, which I think you did fairly do, Ben. So congrats on your first successful rating.
Yeah, this word's pretty good, but I feel like it could get confused with other words like hooper.
Super.
Yeah, that
Hooper.
too. Yeah, but overall it's a pretty good word. Fair rating.
Looper.
All right.
Is
But
duper a word?
I don't know, maybe. But I do feel I feel disrespected by you guys, saying that we had horrible picks when we had some of the best that we've had all day. As in brouhaha. I mean,
Our picks were superb, man.
yeah. Like, if you guys keep saying stuff like that, we're going to have a kerfuffle.
And we don't want to have a kerfuffle on an earth.
No.
We're going to bring the youpers.
Okay. So we could start a fight, even though it's clear we already won the fight already as we got moved up to this position. And you guys are in the pit now.
Yeah, I don't want a
But
kerfuffle.
unfortunately, looks like that's all the time we have today. Thanks for tuning in to Words of the Wise. Have a good day, and we hope to see you again soon.